and very interested, but also credit to this idea of being a multi-ethnic democracy. You take more interest because there's your grouping as well. So it does have its positive effects, the fact that, this diversity, and we need to start viewing it like that.
But these complaints in many ways are valid.
Which complaints? This guy from Northeast?
All these complaints.
all
of
them
them. Even the one.
Listen to this one by, Tharaka Nithi. Remember Tharaka Nithi, right? So Tharaka Nithi and Meru, the governors have threatened to go to court to challenge these census results. So Tharaka Nithi Governor Mudhomi Njoki is saying, the 2009 census revealed that the county had a population of 365,330. And it's unlikely that the number grew by only 27,847 people in 10 years. That would only mean 8 children born in the whole county per day.
Only.
And
he's like,
but
eight,
of
only
course there's
8
people
kids.
dying as well.
Eight kids, but no.
More people are born in this country than
Then
those
die.
die.
Of course.
Of
course. So
that's why the
it's
population
when
is
he's
growing.
doing his mathematics and saying there's only 8 people being born. Maybe there's 20, but 12 are dying, or rather, even if the birth rate is higher. So there's still people dying.
This
take
is
that
the
into
peculiarity
consideration.
about Kenyans. The census actually took place where it is you work, really. Our elections are different. We leave where we work and live to go and vote in our rural areas.
Yes.
So that is the difference. We swell up the numbers in the urban places we live in or the place we live in, but when it comes to voting,
we move.
We vote elsewhere. See?
Now you can
The
see
difference here is that you're counted. You're
you're counted where you work and where you live. Yes,
where
but
you
where
reside.
you vote. Yes, because if you're saying that there are 4 point, God knows how many millions in Nairobi, yes, that is true. Those are the people who are found here at that particular point in
How
time.
many registered voters do we have?
In Nairobi? And how many vote in Nairobi?
in Nairobi.
Yes, there's that little detail.
There's the issue of Isiolo. So Isiolo has emerged as among the top in the population growth, right? So the population of Isiolo County has drastically grown to 268,000 in 2019, up from 143,000 10 years ago. But now, in comes Meru. Meru Governor Kiraito Morongi says, wait a minute. So we have people from Epiding and Ngaramera in Tigania East and Kachuru in Igembe North who have been wrongly placed in Isiolo North. These are my people.
Good Lord.
But you can
These
see
are my people.
You
Bring them back.
You can see the governors and what angle they would be coming from, what their interest in the census is, because of course these are not just people to them; it's their voters,
Yes.
for starters.
And
but
also
most
resource
importantly, resource allocation of the formula, which is quite complicated for resource allocation. That being the money that the government dishes out because of the devolution, or disperses, not dishes out, but gives to counties. It varies from county to county based on different things. There's different parameters that the resource allocation formula gives. So one of them being, for instance, revenue allocated to a county on the basis of equal share factor. This is the equalization fund. Revenue allocated to a county on the basis of land area factor. So depending on how big the land is, but of course,
area that your county constitutes.
So that is a parameter that weighs into the equation. Now, population, of course, counts for the biggest. It's the heaviest parameter in the equation. So you can see why governors will push up their population because the money they then receive from central government or national government rather is affected by the population. And in fact, this brings in quite interesting discussions because when the land factor comes up, you have places like Garissa, which are so vast in terms of geographical area, but have such a small population. But because of the land factor in the equation, they get a lot of money, but with such few people. And then you have densely populated areas such as Bungoma or Kiambu, which don't get as much money as, say, Lamu, which has less people because of their geographical area. So these are some of the debates that we have, and these are some of the reasons why you'll see governors weighing into the census results. Very interesting.
So the politicization of the census has actually begun.
Tribalization.
It had started just before the census happened, and of course it stopped. Now with the results out, well, full throttle, and that's what we're discussing this morning on the Situation Room. Good morning, it's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Still a bit of a mess on Mombasa Road, unfortunately. Traffic heavy all the way from now the Gateway Mall all the way down towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. We don't know what is going on, but we're just going to follow the trail until we get into the city center, regardless. Okay, coming off from Gong Road as well, it go be, as they say, it go be traffic for some time, heading and joining the city mortuary roundabout. Not so good. Then coming out of Westlands into the CBD, everybody's going to the CBD, and that's why we have the problem. Everybody getting to one place at the same time, and it's not so good. Maybe the expressway will solve some issues for us. We'll see. Development projects 0719-012-600 is the number to call if you find an alternate. Let us know.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Well, it's a situation. It's 2 minutes past 9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're discussing the national population census results.
You know, sometimes when you listen to politicians, Kenyan politicians that is speaking, and you listen to Kenyan Christian religious leaders speaking, it's difficult to tell the difference. Why it's difficult to tell the difference? And I actually think that politicians, we malign them sometimes. Being one such person, we malign them unfairly. These are people I am discovering who have immense prophetic powers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you just look at the debate that is arising, by the way, from the report we had, but arising, this thing has just begun. Okay, what's going to follow is going to be something to watch and of great interest. Why do I say this? If you look at what's been happening around the country, now we've forgotten the BBI and the Punguza Mzigo. It's like it never even existed, okay? We've even forgotten that there are floods all over the country and that we have a problem with this deluge, okay? We are focusing on the numbers. It's because of what the numbers tell you. When people want to study the way people go about their business, they study something, the discipline is called anthropology, okay? Now, Kenyans right now, and especially our political elite, would be an anthropologist's dream, because the debates that are going to come out of this census is going to explain to you the character, the nature, and the whereto of the Kenyan, not the politician, and the people they represent. Because what the politicians are saying resonate
with the people.
Yes, they do. They do. Because the clear focus now is numbers. Numbers. Why? Think of it. If you have constituencies and the formation of it, what does it rely on? Numbers. If you take that to its logical conclusion and you are vying for a political seat, what is it that gives you that seat?
Numbers.
Yes. So, if you then want to vie for an even higher seat of governor, of senator, up to president, again, what comes into play? Numbers. If you change a system and you move from a presidential system and take it, say, to the parliamentary system that people keep talking about, what do you think will be at the center stage of discussion? Again, numbers. So numbers are an issue. But look at the Kenyan twist to it. We have already, if you look at the debate, the discussion is we are being picked on.
and even newspapers, the media is already coming in and framing certain things in a certain way. I'm looking at the Star here, and it says the DP's expansive Rift Valley bastion has a total of 11.7 people. So of course,
11.7
million.
11.7 million people.
Me, the 11 I got, the 0.7 people is on. I was going to ask you to explain.
Sorry. But talking like this, you're laying the groundwork, of course, to give the impression that all these are Ruto's voters. And they then go on to say, however, some residents of the Rift Valley hail from central Kenya. So just a by the way.
As a by the way.
By the way. And then it goes on to say the Mount Kenya region, which has been bragging about having the tyranny of numbers, has already opposed the push for change of the country's system of governance from presidential to parliamentary. So you can see already the politics is coming in. This is how the media is going to shape all of this. By the time they're telling you and speaking, I mean, look at the wording, the DP's expansive Rift Valley. So already it's owned. These people are already owned. And it's the suggestion that they're already, they're backing him. But there's another article here that goes on to explain quite well why there's been a slow population growth. The rate at which we're growing is slowing down. So the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics on Monday, it's announced the population, of course, and it represents a growth rate of 2.2% from a population of 38,610,000 in the 2009 census. So the growth rate has been slowed by the increased use of contraceptives currently used by 60% of all married women.
Wow.
So there's another little bit of information that the census has given us, that 60% of all married women are on contraceptives.
Yes, and this is information that men need to take note of.
Also knowing that Kakamega and
40% who aren't. Of what? Let's look at, because we're looking at the census and all the information we've gathered and what uses it could have.
There's widespread use of birth control and family planning.
But
right?
CT feels that this is something noteworthy for men, that 60% of women are on contraceptives, married women.
Married women.
Now, to me, the only thing, for him to tell men to take note is to note that 40% of married women are not on contraceptives.
Yeah, so 40% are willing to get babies currently.
Right.
Kakamega and Kisii boast the highest number of women nationally.
Okay.
So Kakamega has 970,000 women, and Vihiga 306,000, Bungoma 858,000 women, Siaya 521,000 women, and also interestingly the number of intersex as well. Kakamega has 40 intersex. Nyamira has 13. So the number of intersex.
No, Eric. The reported number, not that they have. The reported number is what we are reading.
We have this. These are statistics. These are the figures.
No. That's what I'm saying. Reported.
It's how people answered.
Perhaps you should. Yes. Let me explain why I'm saying this.
Yes.
People who are intersex.
When it comes to intersex, particularly,
yes. So it's very unlikely because the census doesn't ask you to undress. Okay, it just asks you questions when you're fully clothed. All right. So someone will give you information that they feel they're comfortable with. That is really all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What has been reported.
That's a good point.
Yes.
And then they talk about, when we look at the census, we look at Nairobi County, which has the highest population with 4.3 million or 4.4 million, if we round that up. Then Kiambu is the next most populous county with 2.4 million, followed by Kakamega, 1.7 million, if it's rounded up. Bungoma, 1.6 million. Meru follows Bungoma with 1.5 million. And then we have Kilifi at 1.4, Machakos 1.4 again, and Kisii at 1.2. So just in terms of the most populous counties in order there. I urge other arms of government, county stakeholders and development partners to make use of the results in their planning processes, said President Uhuru.
Remember in the last census 10 years ago, 2009, there was a lot of issues that were raised about the numbers coming out of the northeastern province then. So the counties in the northeastern part of the country, now the results for this particular survey have actually shown that the northeastern surpasses the 2009 disputed tally of figures. Right? Garissa, Mandera and Wajir counties have a combined population of 2.49 million people compared to 2.3 million 10 years ago. The numbers contained in the census, however, show that there's a drop in population in Mandera County. So the county has a population of 867,000 compared to 1 million 10 years ago. So in Mandera, the numbers have dropped.
And if we look at sort of, I bring back the politics. If we look at politics and this talk that we've been having of the parliamentary system, and then we remember that each MP will represent a constituency, then maybe we need to revisit the constituencies, especially given the population. Some are very densely populated, so it's not representative if we're going by constituency.
That's why these guys are making noise, because constituency boundary review is actually due to happen next year. And of course, they will use this data. This is the national census data. That's why this exercise is going to happen next year.
And if any counties are going to morph into others, they're obviously going to take those for either which population is sparse, or for that which, doesn't count so much in terms of then the numbers. And this is why people are complaining in terms of, I should have more. My people were on a different end of the country when this was happening. I should actually have more, because they also realize the danger of morphing into another region by what the Boundaries Commission will actually do in a few months. And that's, it has happened before, whereby, there has been this kind of morphing and say, well, now the two of you shall become one. And they don't want to have this, because obviously one position is lost.
But
one position then is lost.
The Constitution
lost
has
in terms
actually
of leadership and a position that they would vie for at government level.
We will not have an increase or a decrease in the number of constituencies or counties. Those ones are set. There are 47 counties. There shall be 290 constituencies. What's going to happen is the boundary. So where does this constituency begin? Where does it end? Some of them, so if you had 800,000 voters, you may find, and your neighbor had only 600, you may find that some of your voters have been given to your neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we don't know about the boundaries, because, of course, if we're due for a referendum to change the constitution, we don't know if that could change the counties into maybe 7 provinces, or we could go forward or backwards. We're not clear on that. I doubt it would be on the referendum, or it would be a question up for debate. But there is a possibility, especially with the constituencies. If you look at some of these constituencies in Kiambu, they're so densely populated, and then you look at some constituencies in, say, Wajir or Mandera, where there's 3 or 4 people, that representation just doesn't make sense.
Figuratively speaking, Jerry.
3.4.
Jerry, figuratively speaking.
No, you have. Are you understanding this scenario? So you have in Central, in Kiambu, you have a county. Sorry, not a county, a constituency. With, say, 800,000 people.
Yep.
And then in Mandera, you have a constituency with 800 people. And each one has an MP in parliament representing them.
Is there really a constituency with 800 people?
No, I'm giving an example. Of course, I have to highlight the point.
And then those 800 people who are being represented by one, he covers an area of 10,000 square kilometers.
Yes. But is it,
and this one in Kiambu covers an area of 1,000
land
square
mass
kilometers.
that we're gogoverning, or people? No.
It's a balance of the two.
It's not land mass that we're looking to develop and help. It's people that we're looking to develop and help.
Live
and
across this land mass.
No. You see, the land mass issue, the rationale behind that, even with the resource allocation, and the reason it was given some weight in the formula, was because maybe these counties, which were vast, were underdeveloped and maybe needed to build networks for service delivery for the people. But it's 10 years. Surely it should be going down in terms of what is needed, because they've built the infrastructure to deliver the services. That is one of the reasons that this land mass issue comes into it. But also, having said that, it's not to say that some of these densely populated counties don't need infrastructure building. Some places need bridges, even if it's a small county and they're densely populated. Just because it's not roads you're building, there could be other infrastructure services you're building in order to deliver these services. So when you put land mass in that parameter, it becomes quite skewed. So you have somewhere like Lamu, where the county, if you divide the money they get for the county, each person gets, say, 20,000 shillings, and then you go to Kiambu and it's 3,000 shillings per person. There's something not fair about that formula.
There's the issue of equalization fund as well, the equalization of it. So
of which we should become equal by now. If governors were doing their job, it's been 10 years.
No,
for how long are you going to say you were marginalized?
7, Jerry. It's only been 7.
Okay, 7 going on to 10. Let's round it up. For how long are you going to say you were marginalized? Do you understand? And keep getting money for this. If the governor was doing the right thing with this money,
they should have raised the profile of your particular area.
You've been marginalized, and now we're talking about
the land mass one is the one that beats me, because is it people we're serving or the land we're serving?
No.
Once you've been given enough money for over 7 years to develop the infrastructure to deliver the services,
7 years,
you don't need any more money.
Jerry,
So why Wajir get so much money? There's 4 people in Wajir. These guys get so much money.
Jerry, you want to sort out a 50-year problem in 7 years?
It can be sorted out.
No,
Why
it-
should there
no.
be a limit? If
No.
there's money that you're getting, that equalization fund.
We don't have money. So we just said
No, they're
that.
getting. No, through devolution, they're getting
Yes,
their
but
ability or their capacity.
The loans
to
for
absorb.
development that Jerry keeps talking
Should
about
have
are on the
gone.
way. They're coming to help the people of
There's a
Wajir.
different aspect
Poor
to
people.
populations that perhaps I want us to look at, okay?
Mm.
And how significant it comes to nationhood. There is a community that existed in Central Province called the Ndorobo. You hear of them as though it is past history or some extinct species of people. And the reason is because the people who found them there, not they found, were many in numbers, and the numbers grew. They weren't killed, they were just swallowed up. If you go to, say, Luo Nyanza, there's a community of people called the Suba. They're actually Bantu. They have a distinct language. But if you give it time, you will find that they will be Abasuba by name, simply because the population of those who are among them are greater. Perhaps on a more highlighted
Can I
front.
just interject about the Dorobo people? I'm just looking it up here because I've heard about them, but I haven't read much about them. And it says here Dorobo is a derogatory umbrella term for several unrelated hunter-gatherer groups of Kenya and Tanzania. So what's derogatory about it?
But did you listen to what I was saying?
No, I was listening. It's just I came across that, and you hadn't mentioned that it's a
and
derogatory.
who gave that particular distinction that you're speaking of? You Google searched it, isn't it?
Yes, it was Wikipedia because
Yes.
I've heard
and
of the
and where are they
Dorobo.
found?
America.
Oh, no, where were the Ndorobo found in Kenya?
So they were found in the area currently called Kikuyu land, right?
Right.
You
Here's
found
the
them there.
etymology.
Where are
Here's the etymology behind it.
They were swallowed.
So
Bas.
the term Dorobo derives from the Ma expression Il Torobo, singular all Torobuni, hunters, the ones without cattle. So living from hunting wild animals implies being primitive, and being without cattle implies being very poor in the pastoralist Ma culture. These are the people who then became Kikuyus? Or?
Masai without cows.
No. I said they existed in the same land space as the people of central Kenya. That's what I said.
So they were the people of central Kenya.
No,
They were the original people of Central Kenya.
they were there. But listen, they belonged to a community that were migratory in nature and pastoralist. So they didn't stay in one place.
Right.
Now, the people who then came in were people who tended to stay in one place. And with the time, and they were numerous. There's nothing negative that happened. It just so happens that these people were more. And the process of intermarriage, whatever remains of them, I'm saying
Swallowed them up.
is a memory. That's what I'm saying. You can't say, there they are, that's where they live.
So they're extinct? Is that
No,
what
they're not
you're saying?
extinct.
I mean,
They're not extinct.
what happened to them?
They were merged.
Right.
Now, if
They were absorbed by the Kikuyu. They were swallowed.
They were absorbed, but they're not the only ones.
El Molo?
If you look at, they still exist, but you see, they are part of the Kalenjin. This is what people don't seem to
Who,
understand.
the El Molo?
Yes, and all the other smaller communities. that you hear
Rendile,
of.
Pokomo?
No. Rendile are Kushites.
Okay.
They are related to the Boranas.
Borana.
Yes, they are related to the Somalis in a way
And the
because those are
Gabra.
all Koshat, Gabra. Those are Kushites. Different community altogether.
Right.
And they're still distinct.
Pokomo?
No, Pokomo are not Kushites.
Where are they from?
They're actually from the coast, but originally they are Bantu also. So
Any prominent
stop changing
Pokomos?
my discussion to discussing communities.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's just some
Sorry,
information
sorry.
I wanted out
Google
of you.
search
So
it.
you're turning this into a GST
Yes,
lesson.
exactly.
No, I wanted to understand it
Well,
better.
no.
Sorry, carry on.
No,
Teacher me. Pokomo.
In your own time, read
No,
about
you
it.
seem to be
If it's of interest to
an
you,
expert
read
on the
it.
subject.
Look, I was
You were
building
making a
this
point.
discussion
Yes.
that if you look at the US of A, one of the biggest problems that had risen also with the presidency of Donald Trump is highlighting the immigration issue among the Hispanics. You'll find that places where people who are originally from Latin America have come in, the numbers keep growing. And that is a major concern because they change the politics. They're numerous enough to elect their own. They're numerous enough to change all manner of dynamics within
Sway
that
a
particular-
decision, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
So when one talks about population, it's not just a matter of statistics and data. It's one of the most sensitive things you can actually discuss. And the debate that we're having in Kenya, which is going to increase in the coming days, believe me, this is just a cursory first glance at it and what people have come up with. When they've given it time and thought about it, we're going to hear interpretation of these things which are far more interesting. Now, this is where now the government fails itself, because they actually had the first handle on interpreting their data and explaining their data so that it is understood. So whatever this the debate you have, it's from that particular foundation that they've given
They
you.
could have framed the debate, absolutely. But
How?
you remember, the government, these are Kenyan
These
people
are-
as well.
and these
It's
are
made out of
politicians.
Kenyan people. So it's them who are actually framing it like this and coming out and saying, actually, my county has more people. And they would look at it from two perspectives. I mentioned earlier, from a voter perspective in terms of numbers, and then the population aspect because of the parameter in the revenue allocation formula. That's their interest.
So we're talking about the new census results that have come out, and of course the politicians and what the politicians are saying and what the people are saying. It's 20 minutes past 9. I'm going to open up the phone lines after this break.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings done right.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Eric Latif, Jerry Thorne, Nduoko, City Muga. So the census results are out, and the first and immediate reaction is looking at the number of people per county, per constituency, and the tribe, right? And the politicians coming out to say, like this. So we're talking about the figures coming out of North and Eastern showing Wajir, Garissa, the numbers have grown. And Mandera, the numbers have dropped. So here's a senior Mandera politician, Biro Kero. He said, welcome to census made in Gatondo, Kiambu, and Central Kenya with the lowest fertility growth rates in Kenya, now recording the highest population growth. Northeastern, with the highest fertility rates and household sizes, records the lowest or negative growth. Census ya Faranga.
Are any of these expressions of sentiment founded in any kind of truth, or is it purely worry?
No.
Because obviously now whether you're looking at
It's not entirely speculative.
exactly, that's what I was gonna. Because look, some of the things that he's given out there, and it says historically certain counties were known for 1, 2, 3, and then suddenly we see a shift in that, and we see the increment in terms of numbers. Where is all of this coming from? It can't be unfounded 100%. It can't be.
Do you remember there was a time there was talk of central and population decline, or birth rates were going down because of the alcohol problem? And then, of course, there was further talk, very speculative, and I'm being a bit of a conspiracy theorist here, where they said it was intentional to keep the population down, whereby there was an extra chemical that was being added to the alcohol that was being sold in that region that made it that little bit more addictive and made men less, basically the birth rate was declining. Now, of course, that problem was resolved. If you remember, in Uhuru's first term, he came down and came up with a lot of programs. So came down on the alcoholism and all the dens that were serving these illicit brews, but also came up with initiatives for the alcoholics in terms of rehabilitation and what thereafter, because of course alcoholism is usually a symptom of something. So with that in mind, I can see why the population would have grown in Central, because people then went back, because for the longest people were seeing Central as not a growing population because of that problem. So given that was resolved 5-6 years ago, you can
Actually,
see how the population would have
It's
grown
still
since
Jerry,
then.
It's
Jerry,
only grown by 49% actually
Jerry,
in the last
it
10
didn't-
years.
it
The
didn't-
population
it
of
didn't start
Central, of Central area, like in Kiambu, the population has grown by only 49%.
It's quite a
No.
high.
No.
That's
Now
quite a
Remember,
number.
Kiambu has urbanized recently,
That's
being
exactly
a
where I'm
dormitory.
heading.
Even if you just
Remember,
go
these are
down
not new
Kiambu
births.
Road,
These are
absolutely.
new people who have also moved
A lot of
into
people have
Kiambu.
moved into there. It's become an urban, it's an extension of Nairobi, so to speak. If you drive down Kiambu Road, just looking at the buildings, the bars, the sort of activity, socioeconomic activity that's happening, it's reflective of the inhabitants or people who are moving in there. So, you've got a lot of new developments coming up, Edenville and so on. A lot of people living in Kiambu. So I can see how easily. In fact, I'm surprised it's only 49%.
That's what I'm saying. It's only 49%.
I'm surprised it's only 49%.
Think about Thika Road and what Thika Road has done in the expansion. Think about everything that all the new housing developments that have come up in Kiambu County. And then think about the people who have actually moved and they were there on the night of the census. They were actually at home.
People who live there.
In Kiambu County. People who live there. 49% is a small growth.
What's Wajir reporting? Because those are the guys really complaining. They're very disgruntled. Wajir, Mandera, Garissa.
Mandera was clear that there was a loss of 200,000 people.
There was a loss of 200,000 people.
Yes.
In Mandera. Maybe they migrated to Nairobi for better business opportunities. So the rural-urban migration.
You need to understand. This is why I was saying that the government lost an opportunity to actually own this narrative and explain it
from the beginning.
Yes.
Before interestingly
Can we try and explain?
But before the counting actually took place.
Following the laws of logic, please let us try and look at how a county or would have gone down by 200,000. And you said there was no sort of disease epidemic. There's no outbreak.
Said clearly there was no epidemic. So we can say that people dropped off.
Okay, let me give you an example, Jerry. I know it's humorous, but consider, for instance, that once with devolution, the flights to that part of the country that you are speaking of increased. If you go to Wilson, for instance, there are 6 scheduled flights that go there every single day.
Wajir.
Yes,
go to Wajir, actually.
And Mandera, okay? Now, there are people who actually do business in Mandera and Wajir, and they go there in the morning and come back in the evening.
Right, from Nairobi.
Yes, every single day. There are those who even argue that some of those counties actually run from Nairobi. Okay, argue. Now, if you're talking about movement, why do people move? People move because they feel the interest will be served better wherever it is that they're going to. Now, please understand also that I'm bringing this discussion to Central. It isn't a question of just the drinks. The proximity of Central to Nairobi has meant certain things. Any new development that comes along, because of proximity, they are the ones to probably see it and embrace it. One such development was family planning. When family planning came in, where it was first embraced were within the environs of Nairobi, and it was actually central Kenya. Now, the moment you embrace family planning, you are reducing the population growth rate. Simple.
In fact, it's the reason why the rate is at its lowest since independence.
Exactly.
Family
so
planning.
The alcohol just comes to top it off. It's just icing on the cake. But it was already...
With the alcohol, they didn't need family planning. That's the problem.
No, you didn't. It didn't encourage it. The alcohol itself
in
was
Central,
family... It was family
That was a
planning.
sterilization.
There was just no activity. And then there was rumors that there's been busloads of people from a certain region that were transported there, but that's a discussion for another day.
So if you look at Garissa and Wajir, 841,000 people, 781,000 people. And
Sorry, where is this?
Garissa and Wajir, right? 841,000 and 781,000. This is now in 2019.
Right.
Then let's look at, this is a growth in these particular 2 counties. And then let's go into Mandera and see that Mandera 10 years ago was 1 million people.
Right.
So you see, there was already a huge disparity already at that point in terms of the population in Wajir and Mandera and the population in...
There's a way I can explain this 200,000 actually, because that's what I've been saying, following the laws of logic. So that's a very good explanation, CT, whereby you said maybe people are commuting with flights becoming cheaper.
I actually hadn't finished my dissertation.
All right, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
Right.
I was actually going to say that in political dispensation, I'm not talking about Kenya, for purposes of political expediency, numbers of this nature have been known to be beefed up.
Right.
They've also been known to be reduced.
Absolutely.
Depending on who's in power and what it is that they want. Now I finished my dissertation, you may continue.
That was a point I was actually going to make.
Which is what?
What I was going to say is that, of course, some of these numbers might have been manipulated previously. So when you see a decline by 200,000 in population, it could have been a correction, yes, from the 2009 census, because maybe that was manipulated.
Would that be?
And I think that's probably the most probable.
The existence of the refugee camps around that area, and now those ones have been closed, and some people have gone back to Somalia. Also, look at Nairobi. Nairobi is the most populous constituency. Did
they count the people in the refugee camps as
the
Kenyans?
last census? They
do. And do they count them as Kenyan?
No, they count them as not Kenyans and non-Kenyans, right?
No, in terms of residency. They count them as Kenyan residents?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know what
do
they classify them as, but they're counted because you do need to know the number of people living within your borders.
Right.
They are
Are
counted.
they included in the census? That's what I mean. They're counted in that we already knew how many refugees we had because that's
Everybody
already
in the
tabulated.
country.
Everyone
Right.
gets counted, even what we call foreigners. Everybody gets counted,
Gets
so we
counted.
know.
In
Everybody
terms
gets
of then what
included.
is tabulated and reported
Are they
as
allowed to
who are
vote?
then Kenyans? No, are you? I mean,
Do they
like
have voting
refugees?
rights?
Who?
The
Foreigners?
refugees.
Oh, refugees? No.
no,
No.
No.
Right. Okay.
They don't, because I mean, refugee by definition means that you don't have any nation or to call your own at that point in time. So,
Right.
what are
You were
you
making a
affiliated
point,
with?
Was it
So
really
I was saying that
traffic?
then in this case where we see that there could have been manipulation of the numbers, obviously it's not something that anybody wants to call and say, yes, well, actually during the last census, this, that, or the other thing happened. But the danger that lies in that is that you have all this rampant speculation when it then comes to what actually was done with the numbers. And then when you present a case like, the individual from Mandera did, when you present that case, it's looked at and it's almost laughable. But then you would ask
is
yourself,
laughable.
what then happened to those numbers? And then that's why I was saying some of these refutes that are coming up are actually founded on the fact that then there was
something.
a mishandling of the numbers previously,
The
and
results-
that's something that cannot be ignored.
The results of those counties in 2009 had actually been suspended. And the reason was given that, well, what we are seeing here is not making sense. The kind of population that we've seen, the kind of growth we've seen in population in this particular 3 counties is not making sense to the government. And
so that we can't fault the hue and cry that comes out then, because if we're
There was
if we're
already an issue.
comparing it to
I
false
think-
numbers previously,
Yep.
then they have every right to complain.
Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads as they open up the phone line. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Let's know what you think of the census results.
Traffic.
Speaking of increased numbers coming out of Kiambu Road is terrible this morning, and everybody's asking what is going on. Just a slow movement coming out, what with the increased numbers and all coming out of the census. Yes, census reports yesterday. So there are more people definitely coming out and then trying to join with the Thika super highway this morning. So that's what you get when these things happen. So traffic there, it's a mess, absolute mess. From Ridgeways to Kiambu Road all the way down till Pangani. At about 9:20, it was absolutely chock-a-blocked. Okay, Bagathi Way also is a parking lot this morning. If you took the Bagathi route and ignored the Timor Junction route, then this is what would have happened, because everybody is using that road trying to get either to Ngong Road or trying to then join Valley Road or join what is known as Kenyatta. So there's traffic, even round about this time. Coming off of Mombasa Road also, we still have that issue that we had earlier. So it's going to dissipate at some point. We're getting around the hour when it does that. But for now, you're just going to have to sit it out and be patient. That's what the traffic situation looks like. Share with us anything that you see, accidents, incidents that we can share about and keep people off those areas. 0719 012 600.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings done right.
94.4 Spice
Do you
FM.
trust the census results? 0719 012 600. If yes, why? If not, why not?
Why wouldn't you trust them? I mean,
This is exactly
the framing of that question is very leading.
Yes.
There's a couple of things I wanted to discuss. Of course, with every piece of research, there'll be a margin of error and then factors that would allow for that margin of error. So some of the things I wanted us to consider that sadly the census wouldn't pick up for certain reasons. So, for instance, polygamists. We're not going to know how many polygamists there are because people simply won't come out with it. Perhaps they were in wife number one's house while they were being counted, and they're not going to be honest that they're married to 2 women because maybe the first wife is sat there and what have you. So there's some details that, because of the nature of who we are as Kenyans, or stigma attached, or sort of awkwardness and shame, there's some questions that we won't be able to get a full answer to. Similarly, homosexuals. We're not going to know how many homosexuals we have in Kenya, because of course, as we heard with Ezekiel Mutua, the courts have outlawed, I don't know whether to call it the practice or the existence of homosexuality, which is very strange because you can't outlaw the existence of something. It exists.
It wasn't a question.
So there was no question. There was no question like that. Whereas that's an important piece of information.
Why?
It's not even regarded
for planning purposes,
Sexual
for a lot of
preference?
reasons. Absolutely, sexual orientation. You get that today if you go and fill in a form for work. For instance, in the UK, you'll get sexual orientation. It's actually male, female. They even give you the option of other and then sexual orientation.
But
then people know how to.
It's not going to be considered in Kenya because it's illegal. So they're very
But
exhausted.
how can you deem something an existence illegal? It's like deeming me
They're
illegal
not going to,
by my very existence as Jerry thought.
You see.
You are
but then
illegal.
they've told you that within the borders
Yes,
of
you
this
can.
country,
Yes,
they've
You
told
can.
I
you that
understand. Of course, I understand it's illegal. But I'm saying these are some of the pieces of the information we missed out.
No, we
as
didn't.
a result.
We didn't miss out. It was left out because it wasn't considered to be important.
Yes.
so
Now
it's
what?
not even regarded.
Now what
Yes.
I am saying, it's
How many
sad.
people have long hair? How many
And I'm
have
trying
short
to
hair?
tell you,
No,
it
no, no, it's
isn't
it is
sad.
a factor that needs to be considered. But
No.
anyway, moving on. I think that you can disagree.
I'm
I
not
also
saying it
think
shouldn't be considered. I'm trying to get this
I know it
point
was left
across.
out. I completely understand that.
that
Siti.
these people who set this thing up knew what they were doing and they didn't
Absolutely.
consider it to be important.
I know, but it is important. This is what I'm saying.
No,
I know
say-
they left it
Jerry,
out
say-
I
intentionally.
Say it's
consider
important to me.
I consider
It's
it
important to me
Thank
and other
you.
human rights not activists, but anybody who believes in human rights and any human, it should be important to them.
Okay,
Now,
so the rest
the
of us,
other-
if we feel we're not important, then we're not human enough, is it?
No, it's inhumane
have
to
rights.
disregard somebody for who they are. Okay. The other thing I think maybe people would have told a few fibs is with regards to their wealth. You get certain communities that are renowned for exaggerating their wealth and some that might be a little bit more modest. So maybe we weren't able. I'm talking about the factors that would have given scope for the margin of errors and
What
some
was the wealth
information.
question?
Ownership of certain things, from livestock to cars and so on. They did ask what you own.
Yeah.
And it's important to know because asking things like a radio, then you know sort of penetration of certain technology in the country and in terms of communication. Does everybody have a radio? And
So you're saying
on.
that it was possible for somebody to say, I own a cow when they don't?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, they're going
people,
to go and physically count the cow.
people do it all the time. I mean, Instagram, for instance, today with the young generation, people are always showing off a life they don't have.
Erasmus.
Erasmus, yes.
So just a few factors to consider and what would have created, a few margins or a few errors there. But the homosexual one is interesting. I think maybe we should have a conversation about that on Friday in terms of
Whether we should
legalizing.
legalize homosexuality in Kenya.
Well, it's the fact that it's deemed illegal. I mean, it's just absurd because you can't criminalize an existence of something. It's like criminalizing a tree. It exists. There's nothing you can do about it.
No, wait.
But we'll discuss it.
Faulty
We'll discuss it
argument.
on.
No.
We'll discuss it on Friday.
Of course, you can criminalize it because it exists. If it didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to
Wouldn't be able to.
criminalize
No, but it's
it.
not a choice. No, you criminalize things where there's intent, mental intent, or sort of intent to do something. There's an action you've done. So there's a choice. But you can't criminalize. I cannot criminalize the fact that you have hair. I can't criminalize
Of course
that.
you can.
That is, in fact, you have a choice. You could cut it off. Gay people don't have a choice. But we'll discuss that. I mean, there's a deeper and more profound argument.
Actually,
I'm keeping it very
the
simple.
argument isn't actually even that profound.
Mine is on Friday.
If you simply talk about human rights, then it involves everything, and that includes sexual orientation.
Right.
It's not complicated. Yes. And if you're talking about rights, someone has a right even in that direction. You may have your view, but they do have a right. Just by virtue of being human, they have a right.
Yes, the fact that what they do in the bedroom should affect their rights as a human being. Anyway,
As
we'll
a census
discuss that.
question. So we're talking about census, right?
Right.
I know.
No, I just think it was an opportunity that the government missed.
The phone lines are open 0719-012-600. You can also comment via our Twitter hashtag The Situation Room and our Facebook page Spice of MKE. We're talking about the census results. So we've seen the kind of reaction that the census results have received. The politicians, those who feel that their numbers were not considered, that their numbers are not as many as they expected, are already saying no, we are going to challenge this in court because we don't believe that the numbers
And
could
they
have,
should.
could have come out this
And
way.
they should.
And they have every right to. And then there are those who are saying, wait a minute, no way. This.
Do you think the courts
it's
can annul the
impossible.
census?
Yes.
Yes, if
They can
find-
annul it and
And
we'll
say,
have
let's
to
start
run
again.
another
Start again.
census.
Yes.
I mean, this is madness. How much did the census cost? We have to remember we're a
Not as
developing
much
country.
as an election.
Right, absolutely. But how much does it cost? It's quite a bit of
Not as
money.
much
Do
as
we
an
need-
election.
Sure.
What are the
And did
challenge?
we have to go to re-election? Did we need democracy? That money could have gone into development. I've discussed that before. The amount of money we used for the re-election, we could have built 26 hospitals. And I don't know how many thousands of
It
schools.
doesn't
We broke
work
it
that
down.
way. It doesn't
No,
work
it
that
doesn't,
way.
because we've chosen for it not to work that way. We could have focused on
That's
economic
what we were told in
development.
2013. We did not go for re-election. Then what did we build?
How many schools?
How many hospitals? How many
Many.
stadiums?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
So-
that's it.
Carry on.
That's one way to
yes.
look at it.
What would the challenge be if you actually somebody was to go to court and challenge the results of the census? What would they be saying? Challenging the process, saying some people were not, for example, the way we are seeing the Turkana West MP Daniel Apunyo saying, I've raised the issue with the Turkana County Commissioner that more enumerators were needed to count the many pastoralists who are migrating to different areas, but no action was taken. So that saying that, for
That could be a
example,
premise upon which you say, well, this then is a fallacy in terms of the numbers that are represented in my particular region, because we know for a fact that some people were moving back and forth, and the enumerators were not enough to cover
Okay.
that certain population. That could be a premise upon
Let's
which
say
a
they
case could
then
be
say,
launched,
okay, we will come to that county of yours
and just
yes.
count and then add on
and
to the
that's
number.
all we're going to
I
do,
think
and
just
just make
you
that
will
amendment and count your people.
make the
Yes.
amendment.
And
I
then they'll
think what would
import people.
happen, I think the
They'll
sort of
import-
court proceedings that you would see from this would be people challenging, for instance, for resource allocation. So, they would put in an appeal as to the amount of money they've received, and the grounds for that would be the fact that they were miscounted during the census, because population is quite a big parameter. It's a heavy parameter within the formula. So what would happen is when money is being dispersed to the counties, you'd have a county actually taking central government or national government to court on the amount they're giving them, claiming that it's wrong on the basis or on the grounds that the population is miscounted. So that would be one of the avenues or a platform that I foresee through which you'd find, for instance, governors challenging the census. But in terms of challenging the census as a whole, as an individual, I mean, I'm trying to see a petition to argue what. It would be a difficult one.
The figures were skewed because that's a
It
complaint.
would be a difficult one.
These figures were manipulated, and that's why when I was asking that question of do you trust the census results, it's because the kind of outcry, the kind of feedback that you're getting from those people who post on the tweets is
It's mainly northeastern fellas. They're really disgruntled. I don't know what they were
across
expecting.
the board. Actually, even more than that.
I mean, we have it coming out of Western Kenya.
Tharakanithi as well.
Jerry, that is not a true reflection of what is happening. I'm not a social media person.
They're the ones
Complaints
also
are
who
coming
had the
right
decline, the
across the
200,000.
country.
Yeah, well,
right
it
across the
It
country.
isn't just from the northeastern
Wilberforce
province.
Otichilo is the governor of Vihiga. He says,
And it's not
we
in
are
northeastern.
using the projection
Bonnie
of
Halwale was
3.6%.
And it's not in northeastern.
Annual
Hold on,
population
let's hear what Eric is saying.
So, Governor Otichilo is saying we are using the projection of 3.6% annual population growth. I don't agree with the new census. This is one way of marginalizing regions. So you see, this is Western Kenya. We are seeing Turkana, that is, up there, up in the North Rift, right? We have seen Mvita MP Abdul Somad Nasir saying, I'm currently analyzing the population, but at least we are pleased, that our constituencies met the threshold set by the IEBC. So Mvita
It's a
guy
relief for him.
The guy is safe.
Mvita guy is happy.
And maybe
National
these-
Assembly Minority Leader John Buddy says, in Homa Bay County, this is reasonable compared to what was recorded in 2009. Homa Bay people, they are happy. Kakamega, they are not happy. Vihiga, they are not happy. Let's see who else is happy and who's contesting this.
Is Central happy? 49% is pretty good, I think.
I don't think that.
Have you seen the people of Nyeri saying, how can we be about a quarter of Kiambu?
Now they're complaining. Now, what's interesting is with these politics, it might all look negative, but it can actually put pressure on the leaders to keep the residents of their counties alive in terms of child mortality, reducing that, ensuring that the hospitals are well equipped, given that health has been devolved. So maybe if we had a census more regularly, every 5 years, and it would become a target for the governors or the leaders within the county to keep more people alive. This means better health services, safer roads, and so on.
It could actually, because
it could have a positive
that
effect.
you do your job as well.
Yeah, we could use this as a tool. So as opposed to having a census every 10 years, let's have a census every 5 years. And because all these governors want a big population, you'll see they'll put measures in place to encourage population growth. So as I say, hospitals, sort of maternity care will be better. If it's fertility services, perhaps you'll find will be better in different counties. They'll ensure that they're saving more lives, for instance, safety on the roads. So it could have its positive consequences. It could be used as a tool, as I say, to put pressure on local leaders. Interesting one, because everybody's fighting to have the biggest population from a tribal perspective or ethnic perspective, right through to the idea of a county perspective, because of course of the funds that are released by national government and the fact that population is a heavy parameter in that formula.
Although I do see this being a typical case where people will be then told to accept and move on. This is what we did. These are the numbers that we counted. And this is what we have shown in terms of the numbers. And this is what we have reported. This is the actual situation on the ground.
This one isn't going to die down that easily.
People are going to continue raising. There will be hue and cry over this for some time.
Remember, these are politicians, and you're talking about the very foundation on which their jobs rest. They're not going to sit back and just let it go.
Sure.
Not really. And remember, that same issue of numbers, when you talk about politicians and what people bring to the table when you're talking of coalition, it's numbers again. It's crucial to everything that these people do. Remember, this you are threatening people's jobs.
Did we have hue and cry during the 2009 census results?
It was suspended, absolutely. Very contentious.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm wondering...
That was contentious.
Yes.
Very.
This is what I'm saying. So in this case, if you had that, then even these numbers that people are crying about and saying that they were based on the 2009 numbers, then is not an argument at all. Because what are you basing it on if that whole exercise was deemed unreportable?
Let's hear from a man who was counted in Nairobi, I think, but he votes in Kakamega. Good morning, Roderick.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Roderick.
Mombi, I want to disagree with you. Why should we have a census every 5 years?
Jerry.
Hold on, Mombi.
Jerry.
Just any Kikuyu name.
It should be used for politics.
Wambui.
It should be used as a tool of politics.
It's Jerry.
It will be, okay, sorry. Jerry, yeah? It will be used as a tool for politics.
But can you
Yeah,
see
we
the
cannot allow
benefits?
election every 5 years. No, it won't be beneficial. Every 5 years we're having a census.
Yes, and it's not going to be. It's not going to be as taxing.
Billion.
No, it won't. With technology, and if we embrace it correctly, in fact, we never need to have another census the way we did.
Well, we should spend around 25 billion every 10 years.
This is what I'm saying to you.
Important.
If we embrace technology, we now know the population. If we're to register our births and deaths and actually embrace and use the digital space,
Let me tell you one
you'll
thing.
find that we don't need to have these censuses. In fact, I predict this is probably the last census we'll ever have.
Let Roderick tell you one thing.
People will vote. Then people will vote. I'm telling you the truth. This thing will be used as a tool by politicians. So let's just give it the span that 10 years is, I think it's reasonable. But hii mambo ya kuweka after every 5 years will put this country in a political, in a serious electioneering mood every time.
But did you see? Remember, it's not an election. The census is very different. Did you see my reasons for suggesting every 5 years?
Which is
Jerry, you know very well the census reflects directly on the election process.
No,
That's
it does.
why
But
there's an issue
I gave some benefits of having it every 5 years. I said, because you can see all these governors wanting to ramp up the numbers in their counties, they might actually improve services that save lives. So, for instance...
Can we have another measure to use other than using a census?
You see, our politicians are selfish. So here we are, we've come across a tool that, because of their selfish nature, they have to act in the interest of their residents.
But we embraced technology in the last election, but still, tulikuwa na vifaranga ya computer and the very funny other things
servers and things.
No, I was just saying, if we had this every 5
more
years,
regularly,
given what we're
So
seeing...
But again, I won't be shocked if this current census is all 2022 planning the making. Something is being played out here.
so
You want to have the Kikuyu vote? We have 2 million votes here in Kiambu. Come. You see, because I'm telling you, people will be coming this on the argument on the table. What do you have?
But remember, we discussed, are you a registered voter?
49%. What have you?
Even if the Kikuyus are, say, 25 million, for instance, I'm just giving it as an example. Say the Kikuyus were 25 million, not all of them will register to vote. And even those who register to vote, not all of them will vote. So even then, it's not a guarantee that, the vote will go the Kikuyu block way, for instance.
But I'm telling you right now, every politician who is in the race for 2022 will come with a tool that, look here, we Luyas have increased to this much.
No, you Luyas as a voting
much.
block, you're divided.
We'll go back to the divisions again of the Luya block.
Those are issues. Roderick,
Yes.
do you trust the results?
I'm 50-50 on this one because I'm seeing it play out in the upcoming politics. This is going to be used as a tool in the next of bargaining power. Unajua tunahesabiwa kama njugu kwa mfuko. Unajua kuhesabu njugu kwa mfuko, yani yeah, we are this much, so there's nothing you can tell me.
And nobody can ascertain.
Yeah, exactly. So people are just using this as a political tool. So I'm telling you, the census is going to be used in the next election as a political tool, or to marshal up support, or to marshal up power, or whatever you want to call it.
Thank you very much, Roderick.
Sure.
0719-012-600. We're discussing the census results. It has, very many areas and facets to it. But the main question as we come to the close of the show this morning is, do you trust the results? And why yes, why no? Right? Because we're hearing people like Roderick saying, I'm 50-50. I'm seeing politics here being played. But, well, a census is actually an instrument of the government that's used every 10 years to know the number of people. Good morning. It's 10 minutes to 10 o'clock.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
So
Nairobi.
we already have two governors saying the results aren't accurate, and then you've got Keraito Murungi, of course. He said that the results aren't accurate. We have people who are saying they will contest the results. So you can see not everybody trusts it. Even our leaders don't trust the process.
So I've opened up the phone lines as they come in. 0719-012-600. Norman in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Situation Room.
Good
Good morning, Norman.
Yeah, I trust the census results. I don't have any problem with the results because Nyanza counties are not that bad.
So if it was, you would have had a problem with it.
Yeah, because that is what most Kenyans are looking up to, whether their tribes are going to add up to the numbers. Or maybe there are voting blocks. You know, there are regions that normally vote as a block, even if they are not a particular tribe. Yeah, so I don't have any problem with the results.
Because Nyanza is fine.
Nyanza is fine.
Do you think this is because of the handshake?
You know, so, you know that one is like I'm trying to cast some doubt on the
handshake.
On what you trust already.
Yeah, that maybe the results were doctored because of the handshake. The results were just fine.
All right, but if you weren't happy with them, they wouldn't have been fine.
No,
you wouldn't have trusted.
No, the reason why most politicians across the country are complaining about the results. It's just because it's just politics. It's not even out of distribution of resources.
What are the politics?
What
are the politics?
Politics like coalition. You know, when I want to have Ungeri in my team of a coalition, I will look at the numbers that will bring on board.
I see.
Yeah, so politicians are looking up to, just like somebody mentioned, I don't know whether it's Ndu or Njeri, who mentioned that the politicians, the fact that results are not up to the expectation is threatening their job.
It was C.T. Muga who mentioned it.
Oh, it was C.T. Muga. C.T. Muga, you are right.
So in an exam, I would have gotten 10 out of 10.
10 over 10.
No,
Yes.
no student gets 10 out of 10. You will get 8 maybe.
Norman, thank you very much for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Norman. Have a good morning. So interesting, and probably that's what we'll see across the country, whereby if somebody feels that their tribe went up in this
I
year's
think that's exactly what we're
census,
seeing.
then
and
they're
that's
happy with the
clear.
process.
Those
but
who
those
are happy with the numbers.
Yes.
it didn't increase significantly,
numbers
then they're
again,
saying, no,
yes.
we're contesting this.
Yes.
As for those guys where it went down, I think they have every
right to come out.
every
and
right
complain.
to. And I like the fact that he said, there's been no epidemic. I mean,
Yes.
we're
So what are we
200,000
basing
down.
this on?
Interesting one. Of course, as I said, the rationale behind that, or the reasoning behind that, or logically would be that maybe last time the numbers had been manipulated and this was a correction of the 2009 census. Now, I was talking about whether we'll ever have another census. I actually predict that this is the last census we'll have as we know it, where people come around and actually count you. I think within the next 10 years we'll have technology and mechanisms in place to count us differently. And in fact, absolutely. And in fact, it would actually be very easy.
So as you come to explain, actually, we'll explain as we wind up. So let's hear from Ben. Ben, good morning.
Morning, Spice FM.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, ladies and gentlemen?
We're fine,
Thank
thank you.
you, Asante Sana.
We am good. I think for the census, I think it came at the right time, especially this, on our site in Rift Valley, because it's a clear indication that 2022 is not too bad for us, because as far as population is concerned, and we will not again exclude the factor of Kikuyu has been discussed earlier in our program. Is those are the people we must watch in any politics at the end of the day.
The tyranny of numbers.
Given
The Kikuyu factor.
yeah, that one you will not ignore. So there are three major tribes which we will not ignore: the Luos, the Kalenjin, and the Kikuyus, and the Luya. But the problem with the Luya now, they don't have that unity factor, which we discussed also earlier. So there are three major ones. That is the Kalenjin, Kikuyus, and the Luos.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you realize that these numbers will assist so much politician on their next move on who to form coalition and so forth. So it came. So I don't know.
Do you trust it?
Yesterday. Of course, there is a margin of error.
Absolutely.
No.
Other than that,
Do you trust it?
other than the margins of error that are allowed, do
Yes.
you trust it?
Yeah. Those people who have done statistics, of course, there's a +1 -1. Of course, they must be there.
Ben. Yes or no?
Do you trust
the census results?
Yeah, of course. Even though I have queries in my county.
Because you're happy with Rift Valley and the numbers that have come out of it.
I'm happy because we are on the right track. Because no politician will ignore. We will not ignore that one. That number you will not. Thank you, guys.
Interesting.
Thank you.
This is Otieno. Otieno, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good
Fine,
morning.
thank you.
Now, you're talking about census.
Yep.
I know so many people that were not counted, I being one of them. And I waited for the guys in the house. They didn't come. Yes.
So in the margin of error.
Absolutely.
You
That's
fall
it.
amongst those people
You're the
for which
plus
there's
or minus.
contention.
Yes.
You're among the individuals for which there's contention by a lot of the leaders now to say, look, these are not the numbers. These numbers do not represent the true picture.
Yes. So many people are not counted. So I don't know how they got their figures. And I don't know why we are so obsessed with these tribal things. Why can't we just say there are a certain number of Kenyans in Nyanza and a certain number of Kenyans in Nairobi? And why do we have to put rules? I mean, it's all for political purposes.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And in this day and age, why are we still counting people the way we do it?
You're not happy today, are you? You've got quite a bit to complain about. Go on.
I'm not. Because let's take Japan, for example.
Mm.
They don't do census. They don't count people like that.
Mm.
Everything is digital. When somebody is born, they keep the records. They know we had this number of people who were born, foreigners, Japanese, and that is the way we should go, rather than spending money all the time.
Right.
Counting people.
Money.
Thank you, Otieno.
Thank you. Have a good day, though. Cheer up.
Not as bad as it sounds, Otieno. So I think we don't have much time for you to actually tell us how the census will look like in the next 10 years, Jerry. But you can just point us in that direction. You're saying what technology?
I think Otieno was onto it there, where I was saying there'll be no need to have a census of this nature. In fact, I see this as the last census that we'll have. And if we can actually just get our birth and death registration on point, we're halfway there. We don't even need to embrace all that digital space and the technology, as he says. But I think by then, this technology will be second to nature. We won't be able to ignore it. And we're not going to have a census like we've seen this time. It will be very different.
Do your closing remarks.
Have a good day, folks. We continue looking at issues that affect us as the sun takes another turn tomorrow.
Make it 2 sentences today, CT.
Once upon a time, this debate has just begun.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room this morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be with you again tomorrow, 6 to 10 a.m. This is Spice FM. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice up your life.
All right, are you ready?
Cruising through the golden years on 94.4 Spice FM. 96.1 Spice FM. Kesey. Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.